Barron Trump adjusted his backpack as he stepped into the bustling hallways of NYU Stern School of Business. The polished marble floors echoed with the footsteps of ambitious students, each carrying dreams of shaping the future of finance, technology, and innovation. But Barron's mind was elsewhere, consumed by a single radical idea that had kept him up for nights. As he reached his classroom, Professor Claire Anderson was already scribbling complex financial models on the whiteboard. She was known for her sharp mind and sharper critiques, making her both feared and respected. Today, the class was buzzing with a special energy. It was the day students pitched their entrepreneurial ideas. "All right, class," Professor Anderson said, pushing her glasses up her nose. "Let's hear what the future leaders of business have in store for us." One by one, students presented their concepts. Some ideas were practical, others bold, but none sparked the kind of excitement Barron felt for his project. When his turn came, he took a deep breath, rose from his seat, and walked to the front of the room. "Good morning, everyone," Barron began, clearing his throat. "I want to talk about something different. An idea that I believe can change the very fabric of our economic landscape, an AI-driven project called MetaNeural." He paused, letting the name settle in the air. MetaNeural isn't just another AI model. It's an adaptive, self-learning intelligence capable of understanding human emotions, contexts, and financial trends. It can predict market shifts, customer behaviors, and even political outcomes by analyzing terabytes of real-time data from multiple sources. A few students exchanged skeptical glances. Barron noticed, but he pressed on, his confidence growing as he dove deeper into his vision. What sets MetaNeural apart is its ability to evolve autonomously, learning from every transaction, tweet, news article, and even weather pattern to provide real-time economic insights. Imagine a world where businesses can anticipate market crashes before they happen, or where governments can prevent economic disasters before they spiral out of control. He clicked the remote, and a sleek presentation sprang to life on the screen behind him, filled with charts, graphs, and projections. MetaNeural can offer a predictive accuracy 30% higher than current AI systems, cutting down losses, increasing profits, and making financial management almost effortless. As he spoke, he noticed Professor Anderson leaning forward, her brow furrowing. "But there's more," Barron continued, his blue eyes sparking with intensity. MetaNeural can also bridge the gap between human intuition and machine logic, making it the first step toward a truly symbiotic relationship between man and machine. It's not just a tool, it's the future. When he finished, the room fell into an awkward silence. Barron could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on him, some curious, others dismissive. Professor Anderson finally broke the quiet. "Ambitious, Mr. Trump," she said, tapping her pen against her notebook. "But you're talking about an AI that can essentially foresee the future. Do you really believe this is feasible?" Barron took a breath. "I do. The technology is already there. It just needs the right architecture and a leap of faith." The professor tilted her head, clearly intrigued but unconvinced. "All right, let's discuss this after class. But I'll warn you, Barron, ideas like these often sound brilliant on paper, but crumble in execution." Barron simply nodded, returning to his seat. He felt the stares from his classmates, some amused, others skeptical. But he didn't care. In his mind, MetaNeural wasn't just an idea, it was a revolution waiting to happen. As the class continued, Barron's mind drifted back to his project, already planning his next steps. He would need data scientists, machine learning experts, and investors willing to take a risk on an unproven concept. But if anyone could pull it off, it was him. He just had to convince the world to see what he saw. A week later, Barron found himself in Professor Anderson's office, a neat but cluttered space filled with academic journals and framed diplomas. She sat behind her desk, flipping through the slides of his MetaNeural presentation on her tablet, her face unreadable. "Barron," she said finally, leaning back in her chair, "I'll give you credit for thinking big. But I have to be honest, this project is risky, even for a student with your resources." Barron leaned forward, refusing to back down. "I understand the risks, Professor, but that's what makes it exciting. We're standing on the edge of a new era, and MetaNeural could be the bridge." She set down her tablet, clasping her hands together. "I appreciate your passion, but let me explain why I'm concerned. AI has incredible potential, but predicting complex human behavior and financial markets with the precision you're describing is a monumental task. It's not just about data, it's about context, ethics, and reliability. One wrong prediction could ruin businesses or worse, crash entire economies. Barron felt his heart sink, but he forced himself to stay focused. That's why I'm building MetaNeural with a self-learning core designed to reduce errors as it evolves. It will get smarter with every interaction. Professor Anderson sighed, tapping her desk with her fingers. I can see you've put a lot of thought into this, but right now it's still just a concept. You'd need a massive amount of computational power, billions in funding, and an entire team of AI specialists just to get this off the ground. Barron's jaw tightened. He knew she was right, but he had already made up his mind. I'm willing to take that risk. I'm not just doing this for me, I want to create something that can genuinely change the world. The professor leaned back, studying him carefully. All right, let me give you some advice. Start small. Build a prototype, test it on a controlled market, and see if your predictions hold up. If they do, then maybe you'll have a shot at convincing investors. Barron's shoulders relaxed slightly. It wasn't a full endorsement, but it was something. Thank you, Professor. I'll prove to you that this can work. As he stood to leave, Professor Anderson added, one more thing, Barron, be careful. Pushing the boundaries of AI comes with risks, not just technical, but ethical. Make sure you're prepared for the consequences. Barron nodded, his mind already racing with plans. He would start by reaching out to a few tech-savvy friends, pooling their resources, and building the first version of MetaNeural. As he left the professor's office, he felt a mix of excitement and fear. He knew he was taking a massive gamble, but that was part of the thrill. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly alive. Meanwhile, in a sleek, glass-covered office building halfway across the country, a group of venture capitalists were already whispering about the mysterious project that Barron Trump had pitched. News traveled fast in the tech world, and some of the most powerful people in Silicon Valley were starting to take notice. The next few months were a blur for Barron. He transformed his dorm room into a makeshift command center, wires snaking across the floor, monitors humming with endless streams of code, and whiteboards filled with complex algorithms. His mind buzzed with the possibilities of MetaNeural, but the reality of building it was proving to be a Herculean task. Barron reached out to a few trusted friends, bright minds from the computer science and business departments who shared his appetite for risk. There was Samir, a machine learning prodigy with a knack for cracking the most complex algorithms, and Lisa, a data scientist known for her uncanny ability to find patterns in chaos. Together, they formed the nucleus of what Barron hoped would become the MetaNeural team. All right, Barron said one evening, gesturing to a hastily drawn flowchart on his wall. MetaNeural needs 3 core components to work. A predictive AI engine, a real-time data ingestion system, and a contextual understanding module to interpret human behaviors. If we can nail these, we'll be miles ahead of anything on the market. Samir frowned, leaning back in his chair. You're talking about building a system that can understand context as well as a human? That's practically science fiction. Barron grinned. Not if we get the architecture right. We need to move beyond simple machine learning. I'm thinking about a neural network with emotional intelligence, something that learns not just from numbers, but from human interactions. Lisa raised an eyebrow. You want to teach a machine to think like a person? That's a bit ambitious, even for you. Ambition is the whole point, Barron shot back. Think about it. If MetaNeural can analyze human behavior as well as financial data, it could predict market movements, political shifts, even global crises before they happen. Samir's eyes sparkled with the challenge. All right, I'm in. But we'll need insane amounts of processing power and data. Do you have any idea how we're going to pull that off? Barron leaned in, his voice lowering. I have a few connections. Let's just say being the president's son comes with some perks. Over the next few weeks, the small team worked tirelessly, running simulations, tweaking algorithms, and battling countless bugs. They tested MetaNeural's early prototypes on historical stock market data, checking its predictions against real-world outcomes. It wasn't long before they hit their first breakthrough. One evening, as the team huddled around Samir's laptop, the AI predicted a sudden market shift based on a combination of social media sentiment, news reports, and economic data. The next morning, the exact market drop occurred, almost to the percentage point. Oh my God, Lisa whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. It worked. It actually worked. Barron felt a surge of pride, but he forced himself to stay grounded. This is just the beginning. We still need to prove MetaNeural can handle real-time data at scale. Samir leaned back, a grin spreading across his face. If we can do that, we might just be sitting on the next trillion-dollar company. Barron smirked, his eyes gleaming with the fire of a young visionary. Not might, Samir. We will. As they celebrated their small victory, Barron's mind was already racing ahead, thinking about the next step, finding investors, scaling the technology, and proving the doubters wrong. But in the shadows, whispers about MetaNeural were starting to spread. Competitors, critics, and even some within the government were beginning to take notice, and not all of them were pleased with what they were hearing. As the weeks turned into months, Barron and his team pushed MetaNeural to its limits. The AI's predictive capabilities had improved dramatically, but they still faced the monumental task of scaling it for real-world applications. Barron knew that the only way to prove MetaNeural's true potential was to put it to the ultimate test, live market prediction. All right, team, Barron said one evening, standing in front of a massive screen filled with flickering market charts and data streams. We're going live. If MetaNeural can accurately predict the market over the next few days, we'll have something concrete to show potential investors. Samir ran his fingers through his hair, his eyes reflecting the green and red flashes of stock prices. You're really putting this thing to the test, huh? If it screws up, we could be in serious trouble. Lisa leaned in, a determined look on her face. Or, if it works, we'll make history. Barron nodded, his jaw set. Exactly. This is our moment. They activated the MetaNeural system, feeding it real-time data from news outlets, social media, financial reports, and even satellite imagery of shipping routes. The AI's servers whirred to life, the room filling with the low hum of processors crunching terabytes of information. Hours passed as the team monitored the system, tweaking parameters and refining the algorithms. Then, just before midnight, MetaNeural spat out its first major prediction. It's projecting a sudden drop in tech stocks within the next 48 hours, Samir said, his voice tinged with both excitement and anxiety. That's a bold call, considering the sector has been stable for weeks. Barron leaned in, eyes fixed on the screen. What's it basing this on? Lisa tapped her keyboard, pulling up the AI's reasoning. It's identified a combination of factors, a series of insider trades, a spike in negative sentiment on social media, and a sudden slowdown in semiconductor shipments from Asia. It's predicting a ripple effect across the industry. Barron felt his heart race. This was exactly what he had envisioned, an AI that could see the world like a human but think like a machine. All right, Barron said, clenching his fists. Let's put our money where our mouth is. We'll invest a small amount on the prediction. If it pays off, we'll have undeniable proof of MetaNeural's power. The next 2 days were a whirlwind of nerves and caffeine-fueled coding. The team watched the markets with a mix of fear and anticipation, their lives effectively on hold as they waited for the results. Then, on the second day, the markets trembled. Tech stocks plummeted exactly as MetaNeural had predicted. News outlets scrambled to explain the sudden crash, analysts speculated wildly, but only Barron and his team knew the real reason: their AI had seen it coming. Oh my God, Samir whispered, his hands shaking as he refreshed the trading dashboard. We just made a 500% return on that single prediction. Lisa sank back into her chair, a look of pure disbelief on her face. We did it. MetaNeural did it. Barron leaned against the wall, his mind racing. He had just proven the impossible, that MetaNeural could not only predict market movements but do so with uncanny accuracy. But as the team celebrated their victory, Barron's phone buzzed on the desk. It was an email from an unknown sender. The subject line read, "We need to talk about MetaNeural, urgent." He hesitated for a moment before opening it. The message was short, direct, and chilling. We know what you're building. Be careful. Not everyone wants this technology to succeed. Barron felt a chill run down his spine. He looked at his team, still buzzing with the thrill of their success, and realized that their little project had just crossed a line, one that would change all their lives forever. Barron stared at the message, his mind racing. Who had sent it? A competitor? A disgruntled investor? Or worse, a government agency wary of the power MetaNeural represented? Before he could dwell on it, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call. The number was blocked. He hesitated for a moment before answering. Barron Trump speaking. A deep, measured voice responded. Mr. Trump, I represent a group of influential individuals who have been watching your progress closely. Congratulations on MetaNeural's successful test run. It's impressive, but you've crossed into dangerous territory. Barron's pulse quickened. Who is this? That's not important. What matters is that you understand the stakes. Your project has the potential to disrupt not just financial markets, but entire economies. You're playing a high-stakes game, and not everyone appreciates a wild card. Barron clenched his jaw, forcing himself to stay calm. MetaNeural is my project, my vision. I'm not just going to back down because someone finds it inconvenient. The voice chuckled, a low, unsettling sound. You misunderstand. We're not asking you to back down. We're offering you a choice. Work with us and we'll provide the resources you need to take MetaNeural to the next level. Or continue on your own and risk making some very powerful enemies. Before Barron could respond, the line went dead. He lowered the phone slowly, his mind racing. This was no ordinary warning, it was an ultimatum. MetaNeural had grown beyond a college project. It was now a disruptive force and the world was starting to take notice. Over the next few days, Barron threw himself into his work, ignoring the uneasy feeling that had taken root in his mind. His team continued refining the AI, pushing it to make more accurate predictions, and the results were staggering. MetaNeural was now successfully predicting not just market trends, but geopolitical shifts, consumer sentiment, and even natural disasters with remarkable accuracy. One morning, as Barron was reviewing the latest data, Lisa burst into the room, her face pale. You need to see this, she said, tossing a tablet onto his desk. Barron frowned, picking it up. The screen displayed a breaking news alert. Tech startups, AI predicts oil market crash, wiping billions from major corporations. Is this the end of Wall Street as we know it? Barron's blood ran cold. The article was full of speculation, but it was clear someone had leaked MetaNeural's recent predictions to the media. He quickly scanned the comments, his stomach sinking as he read the reactions. Some called it a breakthrough, others a dangerous weapon that needed to be controlled. Before he could process the implications, his phone buzzed again. This time it was Professor Anderson. Barron, she said, her voice tense. I just got a call from the dean's office. They've been contacted by federal agencies, the SEC, the Department of Defense, even the NSA. They want to know exactly what you're building. Barron felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. What did you tell them? I told them the truth, that MetaNeural is a student project. But they're not buying it. They think you're developing some kind of economic superweapon. Barron leaned back, his mind racing. He had always dreamed of changing the world, but he hadn't anticipated this level of scrutiny or danger. As the days went by, the pressure mounted. Investors who had once shown interest pulled back, fearing government intervention. Friends became distant and even some of Barron's team members grew uneasy. Then, one evening, Samir approached Barron, his expression grim. I'm out, he said, avoiding Barron's eyes. I didn't sign up for this. I wanted to build something amazing, not start a global crisis. Barron's heart sank, but he forced himself to nod. I understand. Thank you for everything. As Samir walked out, Barron felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. MetaNeural had become too powerful, too unpredictable, and now even those closest to him were starting to see it as a threat. But despite the fear, despite the warnings, Barron knew he couldn't stop. He had come too far, sacrificed too much. As he stared at the glowing screens around him, watching MetaNeural's algorithms dance across the monitors, he whispered to himself, this is just the beginning.